Hi everyone, let's get started. We will be working with Python tokens today. Okay, so let's go ahead. Yeah, as you can see, it's our lesson number two, and it's basically we're dealing with Python tokens right now. So, what are basically tokens? First, let's understand that. Okay, what are basically tokens? Well, tokens are basically. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have to enlarge this, right? I keep forgetting that I'm working on a dual screen. Anyways, yeah, I hope it's large enough, right? Yeah, tokens are smallest units of a program. In our case, of a Python program, right? Now, what kind of tokens do we have in Python? Well, there are many. About few of them we have already talked about on our last session, right? So, keywords, identifiers, literals, punctuators. Okay, so these are the primary tokens that we will be talking about. Now, as for keywords, you already know, we have discussed yesterday. You simply do this, import keyword, then if you want to print it, right? Sorry, it's getting connected. Yeah, you can see all of this, right? These are the keywords. Now, what are basically identifiers? Well, identifiers is how we actually name a variable. For this also, we have had a brief discussion yesterday, right? But today, we are going to expand that a little bit, right? So, variable assignment we have seen like this. So, let's see if I talk about a variable assignment, we have seen simple assignments, right? So, a equals to 10, b equals to 20, and then if you go ahead and print a and print b, you'll get 10 and 20, right? But in variable we have in Python multiple variable assignments as well, right? So if I talk about multiple variable assignments, it's very good, a very good feature here. So how to do that? Let's say you do not want to use two separate lines for assigning multiple variables, right? So you can see it is already providing me as a suggestion. So a comma b, you are putting up 10 and 20. Let's say I also want to add c over here, okay? And I also want to pass on another value, 3. And then if you want to print c, you will see you'll get A, B, C, 10, 20, 30, all of the values that are being given, right? So multiple values are basically something that you can assign in here, right? So that's one thing. Then punctuators. What are basically punctuators? Well, punctuators are basically small symbols in Python that we use to denote a program, to execute a program, right? So what are those basically? So if I simply comment a section out, this is a punctuator, this is a punctuator, this is a punctuator, this is a punctuator, and all of these things, right? So punctuators are nothing but with the help of which we, you can say, write a function, execute a function, or let's say punctuators are something that wraps up a Python block of code. Okay, so that's what punctuators are. I hope it's clear till now for everyone. Yeah, okay. So let's go ahead and proceed. We have covered what we have covered, keywords, identifier. Yeah, now let's talk about literals. Very interesting. So there are different kind of literals that we have, right? Whenever we are taking a variable, we are providing it some value, the way you see over here. We are providing 10, 20, 30, these kind of values, right? So these are basically numbers. So in literals, we have, let me make it a markdown. Yeah, if we talk about literal, we have string literals, we have numeric literals, we have float literals, we have, sorry, we have special literals. Okay. Now, what are these things and how exactly this work? Well, whenever you pass on a value to a particular variable, that becomes one of these types, the types that you have mentioned over here, right? So if I, let's say, write a, and if I provide a value, let's say hello world. Okay. Now this is what? This is basically a string type of data, right? So this would be a string literal. And how do we know that what type of literal it is? Well, you can simply do this. Print a and print type A. You see, class str. Str stands for what? Str stands for string. Okay. Now, if I simply copy up the code and if I paste it over here and instead of hello world, I pass on, it's a 25. It's a integer number. I hope all of you can agree on that, right? If I execute this, see, it says class int. Int stands for integer. Okay. Same way, instead of an integer, what I will do, I will, let's say, provide a decimal point over here. Okay. This time the class is float. It's a floating point number. Okay. So we have talked about, where did it go? Yeah. We have talked about string literal, numeric literal, and float literals, right? Now, what are the special literals? Well, special literals are those where you assign a special value to a particular variable. What are the special value? You can assign the reserved keywords that we have written on the top, right? Where was it? Yeah. This false, none, true, and we can assign these values to a variable as well, right? So let's say if for a particular variable you don't want it to have any value, right? So let's say a variable called C. You simply assign the none variable. Okay. And then if you let me do it in this line only, print type C. Yeah, class none type. See? Now again, in the same way, if I do this, true, it's a bool type. True and false are boolean category of like values, right? True and false. So this would be a boolean category of literals. So these are special literals. I hope it's clear till now. We have covered all the type of literals that we have, right? Now I will talk about a concept called static typing versus dynamic typing, okay? So static typing versus dynamic typing, okay? So what are basically these and what does this mean? Well, static typing is something that is prevalent in languages like C, Java, and all these things, right? So what the static typing says, static typing requires you to provide fixed data type. to the variable before assignment. Now, what does this mean? You're saying that you have writing a lot of things, but what does this exactly mean? Well, let me show. So it simply says I'm writing in Python, so I'm not gonna write into any other code. So what will happen in Java and C and in those kind of languages? If you take up a variable and you declare that this needs to be a string, okay, and then you pass on any value, okay, let's say hello or something like that, okay, then every single point of time the value of C will remain a string. You won't be able to change its data type, okay, that's static typing. But in dynamic typing, now I can show this to you in Python. Let's say you pass on a value called hello, right? We all know that this is going to be a string, right? Class str, but you can simply take up the same, put up 25, print type C, sorry, type C, it will become an integer, right? So Python allows you to type dynamically, whereas Java and the other languages like C++ and all, they allow static typing. So obviously in this case, Python is working in a much more flexible way. Okay. Okay. Let's keep our topic of token till this because I don't want to make every video very long. Okay. Because like, you also might get bored watching all of this, right? So let's keep it short. The token parts are covered. On our next session, we would be covering Python strings, then we would be covering Python numericals in a much more detailed way. Then we will go into operators and everything. Okay, so let's take baby steps, and I hope we'll all learn something, right? So, yeah, thank you for watching, and please subscribe.